Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, watching Earth burn through the viewport. The blue marble that had once been humanity's home now glowed orange with orbital bombardment strikes. Satisfaction filled his multiple hearts as he observed the destruction. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds. "All major population centers eliminated, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. "Estimated human casualties exceed 8 billion. Resistance is minimal." Zektar nodded approvingly. The Galactic Hegemony had debated whether to simply enslave humanity or eliminate them entirely. The humans had been discovered only 3 solar cycles ago, a primitive species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their technology was laughably outdated, their weapons crude, their society divided into countless squabbling nations. The decision had been easy. Humans showed too much aggression for comfortable slavery, but not enough intelligence to pose a real threat. Better to eliminate them now and strip their world of resources than risk future complications. "The mining operations can begin within 1 rotation," the tactical officer continued. "Earth contains significant deposits of rare metals our shipyards require." "Excellent." Zektar turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the Hegemony Council. The human problem has been solved. Earth is ready for resource extraction." What Zektar didn't know was that humanity had never kept all their eggs in one basket. 300 light-years away, aboard the exploration vessel Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen received the emergency transmission from Earth. The quantum entanglement communicator had been humanity's newest achievement, allowing instantaneous communication across any distance. The technology had been installed on only 12 ships, the furthest human outposts in space. The message was brief and devastating. "Earth under attack. Alien fleet overwhelming. Population centers targeted. This may be our final transmission. Remember us." Chen stared at the screen in disbelief. Around her, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Earth, home to 15 billion people, gone in less than 6 hours. "Captain," her first officer, Commander Torres, spoke quietly. "Orders?" Chen's hands trembled as she gripped her command chair. The Prometheus was a science vessel, equipped for exploration and research. Her crew of 800 included biologists, physicists, engineers, and support staff. They weren't soldiers, but they were all that remained of humanity. "Send coded transmissions to all other deep space vessels," Chen ordered. "Emergency protocols. Rally Point Omega." Rally Point Omega was a dead star system humanity had discovered 2 years earlier. It contained nothing of value, which made it perfect for what Chen had in mind. If any humans had survived the attack on Earth, they would know to gather there. Over the next 72 hours, 11 ships answered the call. They represented the entire surviving human population, approximately 9,000 souls scattered across 12 vessels. Scientists, engineers, explorers, and their families. People who had left Earth to study distant stars and expand humanity's frontiers. Dr. Marcus Webb, the expedition's chief physicist, was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. "We can't fight them. Look at what they did to Earth in 6 hours. We're scientists, not warriors." "We're all that's left," Chen replied firmly, "and we're going to make them regret what they did." "With what?" demanded Dr. Lisa Park, the head of xenobiology. 12 ships against a fleet that destroyed Earth? It's suicide." Chen stood and activated the main display. It showed the collected data from humanity's deep space expeditions, 3 years of exploration beyond the solar system. "They think they eliminated humanity," she said. "They think we're gone. But they don't know about the things we've discovered out here. They don't know what we've learned." The display showed star charts detailing dozens of systems humanity had explored. Chen highlighted 3 specific locations. "The Nexus Pulsar," she continued. A neutron star with gravitational anomalies we still don't fully understand. The Void Gardens, a region where dark matter behaves in ways that shouldn't be possible. And the Cascade systems, 14 stars linked by quantum filaments that could theoretically be weaponized. Theoretically, Dr. Webb emphasized, we're talking about forces that could destroy star systems. The energy requirements alone are available, Chen interrupted. We've been studying these phenomena for 3 years. We know how to harness them. Dr. Park looked horrified. You're talking about turning stellar objects into weapons. The risks of doing nothing are that humanity dies forgotten, Chen snapped. The risks of fighting back are that we might take our enemies with us. Commander Torres stepped forward. Captain, even if we could weaponize these stellar phenomena, we're talking about destroying entire systems. Billions of innocent lives. They destroyed Earth, Chen said coldly. 15 billion humans died because they decided we were inconvenient. How many innocent lives do you think they've destroyed across their empire? Silence fell over the assembled survivors. Chen continued, her voice steady and determined. I'm not talking about random destruction. We target military installations, shipyards, command centers. We make it clear that attacking humanity was the worst mistake they ever made. Dr. James Morrison, the expedition's engineer, spoke up. It would take months to modify our equipment. We'd need to build new transmission arrays, quantum field manipulators. Then we start building, Chen said. We find somewhere safe to set up a base and we work, however long it takes. The debate continued for hours, but Chen's determination was infectious. Gradually, the scientists and engineers began to see possibilities rather than problems. Dr. Webb started sketching equations for quantum field manipulation. Dr. Park discussed the biological effects of stellar radiation. Morrison outlined the engineering challenges they would face. They found their base in the Outer Rim, a region the Galactic Hegemony considered worthless. A dead system with 3 barren worlds and an asteroid field rich in rare metals. Perfect for hiding and building, for 18 months, the human survivors worked in absolute secrecy. They built underground facilities on the largest planet. They mined asteroids for materials. They studied the stellar phenomena they planned to weaponize. Dr. Webb's team cracked the mathematics of the Nexus pulsar's gravitational anomalies. They discovered how to create artificial singularities and direct their effects across light years. Dr. Park's research into dark matter led to breakthrough discoveries about space-time manipulation. Morrison's engineers built devices that could channel the power of stars themselves. But it was Dr. Elizabeth Chang, a quantum physicist, who made the most terrifying discovery. While studying the Cascade systems, she found something that made even Chen pause. The quantum filaments don't just connect those 14 stars, Chang reported during one late-night briefing. They're part of a larger network. Every star in this galaxy is connected to every other star through quantum entanglement. We could theoretically affect any stellar object from any other location. Chen stared at the data. You're saying we could target their homeworlds directly? More than that. We could target every star in their empire simultaneously, create a cascade effect that would propagate across their entire territory. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. How many casualties? Torres asked quietly. Chang consulted her calculations. The galactic hegemony spans approximately 40,000 star systems. Total population estimates suggest around 700 billion sentient beings. We'd be committing genocide on a galactic scale, Torres whispered. Chen looked around at her surviving crew. These people had lost everything. Their home, their families, their entire civilization. They were the last representatives of a species that had been casually exterminated because someone decided humans were inconvenient. They started this war, Chen said finally. They chose to target Earth first. Now they get to learn what humanity is capable of when we have nothing left to lose. Meanwhile, Across the galaxy, the galactic hegemony continued its expansion. Earth's resources were being stripped efficiently. New worlds were being conquered. The memory of humanity was already fading from official records. Admiral Zektar had been promoted for his quick resolution of the human problem. He now commanded an entire sector fleet, tasked with bringing 36 worlds under hegemony control. It was routine work. Few species could mount meaningful resistance against hegemony technology. He certainly never imagined that somewhere in the void between stars, the survivors of a supposedly extinct species were preparing something that would make the entire galaxy tremble. Dr. Morrison put the finishing touches on the stellar manipulation array. Around him, hundreds of human engineers worked frantically to complete the weapon that would announce humanity's return to the galaxy. "Final systems check complete," he reported to Captain Chen. "The array is ready." Chen nodded grimly. 18 months of work had led to this moment. They had built something unprecedented, a device that could reach across light years and turn stars themselves into weapons. "Target selection?" she asked Dr. Chang. "I recommend starting with hegemony military installations, 3 major shipyards, their primary naval academy, and Admiral Zektar's sector command base. 5 targets total, all in different star systems." Chen authorized the targeting sequence. In the depths of space, the stellar manipulation array powered up, drawing energy from the Nexus pulsar through quantum tunnels that bent space-time itself. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy why some species should never be underestimated. The countdown began, and with it, the hegemony's greatest nightmare was about to unfold. Admiral Zektar was reviewing fleet deployment reports when the first target disappeared. The Hegemony Naval Academy at Rigel Prime had been training officers for 3 centuries. The massive complex orbited a blue giant star, home to 50,000 cadets and instructors from across the Empire. At 1427 Galactic Standard Time, long-range sensors detected unusual stellar activity. At 1428, the star went supernova. The explosion shouldn't have been possible. Rigel Prime was a stable star with millions of years of life remaining. Stellar mechanics simply didn't allow for spontaneous supernovas in stars of that type and age. Yet the Academy, the orbital platforms, and 12 nearby worlds were vaporized in seconds. Zektar stared at the report in disbelief. 50,000 of the hegemony's best and brightest gone in an instant. The loss of the Academy alone would cripple officer training for years. "It must have been a stellar accident," his aide suggested nervously. "A 1 in a billion stellar event." Before Zektar could respond, his communication console lit up with emergency signals. 3 more reports came in simultaneously. The Mandara shipyards had been destroyed when their star destabilized. The Outer Rim command base was gone after their sun collapsed into a black hole, and the primary fleet depot at Antares had vanished when stellar matter somehow reversed its nuclear fusion. 4 separate star systems. 4 impossible stellar events in less than 2 hours. "Get me the Hegemony Council," Zektar ordered, his voice tight with controlled panic. "Now!" The emergency session convened within minutes. Representatives from dozens of species appeared as holograms around the council chamber, their voices overlapping in confusion and fear. 4 stars cannot spontaneously destabilize," declared Councillor Vexhai, the Hegemony's chief scientist. "The probability calculations suggest this was an attack." "Attack by whom?" demanded Councillor Thorne. "Our intelligence reports show no species with such capabilities. Even the ancient progenitor ruins contain nothing that could weaponize stars themselves." High Councillor Malvek, a being whose species had been conquering worlds since before most council members' races had achieved spaceflight, spoke with grim authority. "There is only one recently discovered species that we might have underestimated: the humans." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the council. "Impossible," Zektar protested. "I personally oversaw their extermination." Earth was completely sterilized. Human civilization was eliminated. Their home world was destroyed, Malvek corrected. Did you verify the destruction of all human vessels? All human colonies? The silence that followed was damning. Meanwhile, aboard the human base ship Prometheus, Captain Chen watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The stellar manipulation array had worked perfectly. 5 hegemony military targets had been eliminated with precision strikes that turned their local stars into weapons. Casualty estimates? She asked Dr. Chang. Approximately 12 million hegemony military personnel, Chang reported, plus civilian populations on nearby worlds, maybe another 8 million, total of 20 million dead. The numbers were staggering, but Chen felt no remorse. 20 million dead as retaliation for 15 billion humans murdered on Earth. The mathematics of vengeance were clearly in humanity's favor. Dr. Webb, status on the next phase? Dr. Webb consulted his tablet. The quantum cascade generators are ready. We can target the hegemony's 12 core worlds simultaneously. Estimated casualties would be in the hundreds of billions. No, Chen said firmly. Not yet. First, we give them a chance to understand what they're facing. She activated the long-range communication array, broadcasting on all hegemony frequencies. The message was simple and direct. To the Galactic Hegemony. You targeted Earth first. You murdered 15 billion innocent humans because you decided we were inconvenient. This was our proportional response. 20 million of your military personnel for 15 billion of our civilians. We are prepared to escalate. Contact frequency 847.3. You have 72 hours to respond. Humanity endures. The message reached hegemony space 12 hours later and caused absolute chaos. No extinct species had ever returned to challenge their extermination. No primitive civilization had ever demonstrated the ability to weaponize stars. The implications were terrifying. If humans could destroy star systems at will, nowhere in the galaxy was safe. High Counselor Malvek convened an emergency war council. The greatest military minds of the hegemony gathered to assess the threat and plan their response. Intelligence estimates suggest no more than a few thousand humans could have survived, reported General Korix, the hegemony's supreme military commander. They're operating from hidden bases in unexplored regions. A few thousand humans just destroyed 4 star systems, Admiral Thane pointed out. Their numbers are irrelevant if they can weaponize stellar objects. How is that even possible? Demanded General Vactor. Our own scientists say such technology should be impossible. Counselor Vexhai activated a holographic display showing the destroyed systems. Analysis of the stellar events suggests manipulation of quantum fields on a massive scale. The humans somehow triggered controlled supernovas, stellar collapses, and fusion reversals. The energy requirements are astronomical. They must have discovered something we missed, Malvek concluded. Some progenitor technology or natural phenomenon that we overlooked. The debate continued for hours. Some council members advocated for immediate surrender. Others demanded a massive military response. A few suggested negotiation. It was Admiral Zektar who proposed the most dangerous course of action. We locate their base and destroy it before they can launch another attack, he said. They may have powerful weapons, but they're still only a few thousand survivors. A concentrated assault could eliminate them permanently. And if we fail? Asked Counselor Thorne. If we fail, they destroy our core worlds and the hegemony collapses anyway, Zektar replied. This is our only chance to solve the problem before it becomes unsolvable. 3,000 light-years away, Dr. Chang detected the massive military buildup in hegemony space. Fleet movements suggested they were gathering forces for a major offensive operation. They're not going to negotiate, she reported to Captain Chen. Long-range sensors show battle fleets converging from 12 sectors. Estimated strength? 8,000 warships. Chen studied the tactical display. The human base was well hidden, but once the hegemony started searching systematically, they would eventually be found. 9,000 human survivors against 8,000 alien warships. The odds were impossibly bad, unless they escalated first. Dr. Webb, initiate Phase 2. Target the hegemony homeworlds. Webb hesitated. Captain, that's 7 billion beings on the primary world alone. Add the other core worlds. They made their choice when they decided to hunt us down instead of negotiating, Chen replied coldly. Initiate the sequence. The quantum cascade generators powered up, drawing energy from 14 different stars through the network Dr. Chang had discovered. The targeting computers locked onto the hegemony's 12 most important worlds, the political, economic, and military centers of their empire. But as the final countdown began, Dr. Morrison detected something troubling. Captain, we're getting massive quantum interference, he reported. Something's disrupting the cascade network. On the main screen, energy readings fluctuated wildly. The carefully calibrated targeting system showed error messages cascading across multiple displays. What's causing it? Chen demanded. Dr. Chang worked frantically at her console. Unknown. The quantum filaments are destabilizing. It's like something is actively interfering with our stellar manipulation. 3 hours later, they had their answer. The interference came from another human ship, the deep space research vessel Einstein, under the command of Dr. Robert Hayes. Hayes had been humanity's leading expert on quantum mechanics before the Earth attack. His ship had been studying the galactic quantum network from a different location. Captain Chen, Hayes's face appeared on the communication screen. I'm registering massive quantum disturbances from your location. Please tell me you're not about to destroy 12 star systems. Dr. Hayes, Chen replied stiffly, I thought your ship was lost. We've been conducting independent research for the past 18 months. Captain, what you're attempting will cascade beyond your target zones. The quantum network is more complex than you realize. Destabilizing 12 major nodes simultaneously could collapse the entire galactic matrix. Meaning what exactly? Hayes's expression was grim. Meaning every star in the galaxy would be affected. We're talking about the potential extinction of all life in the Milky Way. Chen stared at the display. She had been prepared to commit genocide against the hegemony. She had not been prepared to accidentally destroy the entire galaxy. How certain are you? 87% probability based on our models, Hayes replied. The quantum filaments connecting stars aren't just a weapon delivery system. They're part of the galaxy's fundamental structure. Damage them severely enough, and you risk a cascade collapse that would affect every stellar object. Chen looked around at her crew. They had been ready to avenge Earth by destroying the hegemony. They had not signed up to end all life in the galaxy. Stand down the cascade generators, she ordered reluctantly. Dr. Webb complied, and the energy readings stabilized. The moment of galactic catastrophe had passed, but the problem remained. The hegemony fleet was still coming, and humanity still needed to defend itself. That's when Dr. Hayes offered an alternative. I've been working on something different, he explained. Instead of destroying stars, we can manipulate space-time itself, create localized distortions that would make FTL travel impossible within specific regions. You want to strand their fleet? Chen asked. Better than that, we can create a quarantine zone around their entire empire. No ships in or out. Let them contemplate their actions while confined to their own territory. It was elegant, non-genocidal, and completely unprecedented. The hegemony would be effectively imprisoned within their own borders, unable to expand or threaten anyone else. But it would also give up humanity's chance for complete revenge. Chen weighed the options as the enemy fleet drew closer. Total annihilation or perfect imprisonment, genocide or justice. The choice would define not just humanity's future, but the future of every species in the galaxy. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Sovereignty, leading the largest fleet the Galactic Hegemony had assembled in 3 centuries. 8,000 warships spread across space in perfect formation, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire worlds. They were hunting ghosts, the surviving remnants of a species they had already exterminated once. But these ghosts had teeth. The destruction of 4 military installations had proven that humanity possessed weapons beyond imagination. Long-range scanners detect anomalous quantum signatures in the outer rim, reported his tactical officer. Possible human base located in the Kepler Dead Zone. Zektar studied the star charts. The Kepler Dead Zone was a region of space the hegemony had never bothered to explore. Dead stars, barren worlds, nothing of value. Perfect for hiding. Set course. Maximum burn. I want those humans found and eliminated before they can deploy their star killers again. What Zektar didn't know was that the humans were aware of his approach. Dr. Chang had been monitoring hegemony fleet movements for weeks, tracking the massive military buildup that could only have one purpose. Captain Chen faced the most important decision in human history. Her engineering teams had worked frantically to implement Dr. Hayes's quarantine plan, but the space-time manipulation technology was untested on this scale. Meanwhile, the hegemony fleet would reach their position in less than 48 hours. "Status report," she ordered. Dr. Morrison consulted his displays. "The spatial distortion generators are ready. We can create a barrier around the entire hegemony territory. Approximately 40,000 star systems contained within a space-time bubble." "Duration?" "Theoretically permanent," Dr. Hayes replied via communication link from the Einstein. "The distortions will be self-sustaining once established. Ships inside can travel freely within their territory, but nothing crosses the barrier in either direction." Dr. Webb raised his hand. "Captain, there's still the issue of the approaching fleet. 8,000 warships will overwhelm our defenses long before we can complete the quarantine protocol." Chen nodded grimly. They needed a distraction, something to keep the hegemony fleet busy while the quarantine barriers were established. "Dr. Chang, how many stars can we destabilize simultaneously without risking cascade collapse?" Chang consulted her calculations. "Based on Dr. Hayes's research, no more than 6 targets. Any more risks damaging the quantum network?" 6 it is. Target the fleet's supply lines, fuel depots, ammunition stores, repair facilities. Make them choose between hunting us and keeping their fleet operational." The stellar manipulation array powered up once again. This time, the targets were carefully chosen for maximum strategic impact with minimal civilian casualties. 6 hegemony logistics centers suddenly found their local stars becoming unstable. The results were immediate and devastating. Admiral Zektar received reports of simultaneous stellar events destroying 3 fuel depots, 2 ammunition manufacturing centers, and the primary repair facility for his sector. Without those resources, his massive fleet would be stranded in deep space within days. "It's a trap," his strategic advisor warned. "They're trying to force us to divide our forces." "No," Zektar replied, understanding finally dawning. "They're buying time. Whatever they're planning, they need us distracted while they implement it." He turned to his fleet commanders. "All ships, maximum burn to the target coordinates. We end this now, before they can complete their preparations." But it was too late. 3,000 light-years away, the spatial distortion generators activated. Drawing power from the Nexus pulsar and the quantum network itself, they began weaving barriers of distorted space-time around the hegemony's borders. The effect was invisible to normal sensors, but its impact was immediate. Hegemony ships attempting to leave their territory found their faster-than-light drives failing. Space itself had become impassable beyond certain coordinates. High Counselor Malvek received the reports with growing horror. "Impossible. You cannot simply wall off 40,000 star systems." "The barriers are holding," reported his chief scientist. Any ship attempting to cross the boundary loses FTL capability and reverts to sublight speeds. At current velocities, it would take ships centuries to cross the barrier zone. And ships outside our territory? Cut off. Admiral Zektar's fleet is stranded in the Outer Rim with no way home. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Hegemony, an empire that had conquered hundreds of species across 3 galactic arms, was suddenly confined to its own borders. Their expansion was over. Their influence beyond their territory was gone. Meanwhile, Zektar's fleet faced a desperate situation. Cut off from their supply lines and unable to return home, they had one option left: destroy the human base before their fuel reserves ran out. All ships, prepare for final assault, Zektar ordered. Target coordinates confirmed. We go in fast and hard, everything we have. The human base detected the incoming fleet 12 hours before arrival. 9,000 civilians against 8,000 warships. The outcome should have been obvious. But humanity had one more surprise. Captain Chen activated the emergency beacon, broadcasting on a frequency every human ship would recognize. Across the galaxy, 12 deep space vessels received the call. The survivors of humanity were making their final stand. What followed was unprecedented in galactic history. The human ships didn't engage the hegemony fleet in conventional battle. Instead, they began broadcasting. To all species monitoring this frequency, Chen's voice carried across subspace. This is Captain Sarah Chen, representing the survivors of humanity. Our world was destroyed. Our people were exterminated. We are 9,000 souls facing 8,000 warships. The message reached dozens of species. Civilizations that had been conquered by the hegemony, worlds that lived under hegemony rule, races that had watched their own people enslaved or eliminated. The galactic hegemony chose to genocide our species rather than coexist. Today we show them the cost of that choice. We are not seeking conquest. We are not claiming territory. We seek only justice for crimes against our people. What Chen couldn't have known was that her message would reach the underground resistance movements on dozens of hegemony worlds, species that had been waiting for someone, anyone, to stand up to their oppressors. As Zektar's fleet closed in on the human base, something unexpected happened. Ships began emerging from hyperspace around them, not human ships, vessels belonging to the supposedly pacified worlds of the hegemony. The Zilani had lost half their population to hegemony slave raids. The Corton had seen their homeworld strip-mined to nothing. The Vekhai had watched their ancient culture systematically erased. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships, all emerging from hiding to support humanity's desperate stand. Admiral, Zektar's communications officer reported in shock. We're detecting rebellion on 17 hegemony worlds. Local defense fleets are standing down or joining the insurgents. Zektar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His massive fleet suddenly faced not just 9,000 humans, but a coalition of angry species who saw humanity's resistance as the spark they had been waiting for. Sir, his tactical officer added, incoming transmission from the human ship. Chen's face appeared on the screen. Calm and determined despite facing impossible odds. Admiral Zektar, we meet at last. You're responsible for this, Zektar accused. You've turned our subject worlds against us. I did nothing but show them what was possible, Chen replied. You turned them against you through centuries of oppression. I simply gave them hope. Your hope dies here, Zektar snarled. My fleet will destroy your base and scatter your alien allies. Chen smiled coldly. Your fleet is stranded in deep space with dwindling fuel reserves. Even if you win this battle, you'll never make it home. Your precious quarantine barrier ensures that. For the first time, Zektar felt genuine fear. Win or lose this engagement, his fleet was doomed. The humans had trapped them as effectively as they had trapped the entire hegemony. However, Chen continued. I'm prepared to offer you an alternative. What alternative? Surrender. Order your fleet to stand down, and we'll provide you with fuel and supplies for the journey home. Your crews will be interned as prisoners of war, but treated according to galactic conventions. Zektar laughed bitterly. And in return? The hegemony acknowledges the independence of all species that choose to leave your empire. You cease all expansion operations. You open your borders to humanitarian inspections, and you pay reparations for the genocide of humanity. Impossible. The Hegemony Council will never agree to such terms. Chen's expression hardened. The Hegemony Council is trapped in a spatial bubble with no way out. Their expansion fleets are stranded across the galaxy with no way home. Their subject worlds are in open rebellion. Admiral, your empire is finished. The only question is how many more people die before you accept reality. Around them, the battle had already begun. But it wasn't the overwhelming hegemony victory Zektar had expected. The combined rebel fleets fought with desperate courage, while human ships used their superior technology to devastating effect. The stellar manipulation array targeted the flagship's sovereignty, causing the nearby star to emit focused radiation bursts that overloaded the ship's shields. Quantum field generators created space-time distortions that made entire sections of the hegemony fleet unable to maneuver effectively. Within 6 hours, half of Zektar's fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remainder faced the choice between certain destruction and surrender. Zektar made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships, stand down. Surrender to the human commander. The Battle of Kepler Dead Zone, as historians would later call it, marked the end of the galactic hegemony's expansion era. Admiral Zektar's surrender opened the floodgates for independence movements across the empire. Within one solar cycle, 67 worlds had declared independence. The spatial quarantine barriers remained in place, preventing any hegemony military response. Rebellion spread like wildfire through systems that had suffered under alien rule for centuries. The Hegemony Council, trapped within their own borders, faced an impossible choice: negotiate with the humans or watch their empire dissolve completely. High Counselor Malvek personally contacted Captain Chen to begin peace talks. Your terms are harsh, he admitted during their first communication. Your crime was genocide, Chen replied without sympathy. Our terms are just. You realize that accepting them means the end of the hegemony as we know it. That's the point. Empires built on conquest and oppression don't deserve to survive. The negotiations took months, but eventually the hegemony had no choice but to accept. The spatial barriers would remain in place, confining them to their core territories. All subject worlds would be allowed to choose their own governments. Reparations would be paid to the survivors of genocided species. And humanity, 9,000 survivors from a dead world, would oversee the transition. 5 years later, Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, humanity's first permanent settlement since Earth's destruction. Around the station, ships from dozens of species came and went freely: refugees from the old hegemony, explorers from newly independent worlds, traders establishing new commerce routes. Commander Torres joined her at the viewport. The latest reports from the hegemony territory? Continued civil unrest, Chen replied. 3 more worlds have petitioned for independence. The Council is losing control. Any regrets about the quarantine barriers? Chen was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes I wonder if we should have just destroyed them all when we had the chance. And then I remember that we're not them. We chose justice over vengeance. The galaxy is better for it. Through the viewport, they could see the construction scaffolding around humanity's newest project, a memorial to Earth, visible from light years away. 15 billion names etched in quantum crystal, ensuring that humanity's dead would never be forgotten. The hegemony had targeted Earth first, believing they could eliminate humanity without consequence. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the entire galaxy. Humanity endured, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of hegemony space, locked behind their spatial barriers, the former conquerors learned a lesson that echoed across the stars. Some species, no matter how small or seemingly weak, should never be underestimated. The humans had proven that sometimes the prey has bigger teeth than the predator ever imagined.